I'm 32 years old male, married to Madison. She's 30 years old. Our marriage has been going on for 4 years. We are currently in counseling, but it's not likely to help. It started about a year ago. That's when I first found out about her affair. When I returned home, I found someone else's clothes in the living room and heard noises coming from the bedroom. I was overcome with rage. I grabbed my Cricut bat from the front closet, but stopped, thinking about the consequences. I decided I didn't want to go to jail. Instead, I gathered all their clothes and quietly left the house. On the way to my friend's house, I threw the clothes in the dumpster outside the McDonald's. Disconnecting my phone, I spent the evening with my friend drinking. The next morning, his wife kicked us out of the house with a water hose. When I turned my phone back on, I found dozens of calls and texts from Madison. At first, she was worried because she had learned of my flight time change. Then she was alarmed because I hadn't given her any notice of my early arrival. After that, she thought the house had been burglarized. Finally, she was horrified when she realized it was me. The man she was with was considerably different from me in height and weight. If he had tried to wear my clothes, it would have been obvious. He ended up calling a friend to bring spare keys to his house. Unfortunately for him, his wife suspected something amiss and followed her friend back to my house. She saw him leaving in clothes that were too big for him. She ended up taking pictures of him and had proof of his infidelity. This led to the annulment of their prenuptial agreement, which cost him a large sum of money. The whole thing turned into a huge scandal that dragged on for months. My wife talked me into trying to forgive her. We started going to counseling and tried to mend our relationship. However, recently during one of the sessions she claimed that I had done wrong by stealing that man's wallet, phone, and car keys. She claimed that his divorce had cost him a large sum of money and that I should have behaved more maturely. In her opinion, it was my fault. I never admitted to taking his stuff. I was afraid he might call the police. Back then, I didn't want to give her a reason to divorce me. Now, I don't care anymore. I told her that her cheating was the reason for her boyfriend's divorce. I expressed my hope that his ex would take everything. I don't live at home anymore. I have my own apartment now, and I'm filing for divorce. Now that I know her real feelings, it feels like a kind of slap in the face. She's blaming me for his divorce. Oh, my God, I'm laughing my ass off. Your wife is a nervous wreck. She supports her lover and claims you hurt him. What about the evil they did to you and his wife? Obviously, she doesn't regret her affair, just upset that they got caught. I wish you all the best. I hope everything goes the right way in the divorce. You're not an idiot. Why does she know about his divorce problems? If she's trying to regain your trust, knowing about his problems indicates that she's still in contact with him. You have to get rid of her. Yes, she is worried about her lover, not you. The fact that she's trying to blame you for his divorce rather than acknowledging their affair says a lot about her intentions to divorce. Dude, she still cares about that guy. Stop going to counseling. Stop communicating with her. Block her and run. Don't file for divorce right away. Then go to the guy's wife. Tell her who you are and offer her dinner to celebrate the end of your marriage and how karma is doing its thing. Next story. My wife and I have been together for 6 years. She is currently pregnant with our daughter and has been so for several months now. 4 weeks ago, I got a promotion, which was accompanied by a complete job change. My work is now much more physically demanding, which is affecting my sleep patterns. Since my sleep has become sound, I have started to toss and turn at night, talking and snoring. In addition, I have started unconsciously touching her in my sleep without realizing it. These problems have become a source of anxiety for me. I realize that I need to find a solution, but have not done so yet. In my search for alternatives to sleeping pills that help reduce snoring and unwanted touching in sleep, I have found some remedies. However, they often leave me fatigued the next day, which is a hazard at work. Therefore, I try not to take them if they interfere with my work. A few times I'd been woken up by my fiancée sleeping on the couch. She was angry with me because I was disturbing her sleep. To give her space, I slept on the couch myself a few times. But this is not always possible as the couch is too hard and it causes me physical pain. This pain, combined with the physical labor I do, makes the situation even worse. Last night, as it turns out, I found myself repeatedly pushing her with my elbows in her sleep. We sleep on a large double bed, but it seems I kept rolling over onto her side, pushing her in the process. Once she even physically pushed me away to get me back on my side. But almost immediately after that, I fell asleep again, only to be awakened by her screaming in my face telling me to stop. That scream caused me to react, and on impulse I asked her to leave. As soon as she left, I felt horrible. I thought she had left in her car, and as I sat there waiting for her to return, I fell asleep again. I woke up to the sound of my alarm clock at 6:30 a.m. and immediately realized she wasn't back yet. After texting her, I never got a response. I spent the entire day at work trying to contact her, texting, calling, but she continued to ignore me. About 30 minutes ago, I started calling and texting her more actively, begging her to meet me at home so we could discuss things. In response, all she did was tell me I didn't have a chance and sent me away. My friend thinks she's too emotional because of the pregnancy, but I can't help but feel guilty. I admitted that I had acted like an idiot. As I tried to apologize, I heard back that my apology wasn't enough because her reaction was more justified than mine. Turns out I had elbowed her in the face several times in 2 hours and thrown her off the bed twice. She decided that was the last straw. She told me she was woken up by my actions, but I didn't remember that and kept doing it over and over again. Putting 2 separate beds in our apartment is now impossible due to lack of space. She said she wouldn't be coming home anytime soon, if ever, as she was sleeping a maximum of 2 hours a night due to my sleep problems. She was tired of fighting it. Buddy, you really did act rashly. You need to put more effort into your sleep problems as you should have done it already yesterday. She needs sleep just as much as you do, and it's obvious that it can't go on like this. Invest in a quality mattress, sofa bed, or install an extra bed in another room or even in the basement if you can. You say that installing 2 separate beds is not possible at this point, and that's the reason she's not coming back. She found another bed. Deal with it, buddy. It's ridiculous that you're jeopardizing the health of your unborn child. Seriously, you're acting like you're actively interfering with your pregnant wife's every night of sleep. How could she leave after you yelled at her to leave? The problem is once again you, and you're not trying to fix it at all. Get rid of the uncomfortable couch and replace it with one that you can comfortably sleep on temporarily if the problem is the seat. Instead of attacking a pregnant woman in her sleep and then kicking her out, think about your baby's health. Are you complaining that your back hurts on the couch? Buy an air mattress and look for an alternative. You didn't see where she was when you made her leave. You're pretending it's not your fault and you're both suffering from sleep deprivation. I wouldn't go back if I were her, you can be sure of that. You're in a tough situation and you need perspective. Here's some advice. Now I want to tell a different story. My sister Emily is getting married soon. We have always been close throughout our lives. However, after my recent breakup with my ex, Chris, understanding between us has become more difficult. Chris and I were together for 5 years. The relationship was serious, but 3 months ago we broke up. The reason was that Chris decided to develop his career abroad and I didn't want to move. Emily and Chris always found common ground. However, I never imagined that she could take his side. Yesterday, Emily casually mentioned that she had invited Chris to her wedding as her best man. To make matters worse, she informed me that due to limited seating at the wedding, I would not be invited. In her opinion, my presence would cause drama and ruin her day. I was stunned by this news. Emily and I grew up in modest circumstances, and she had always dreamed of having a big wedding. As a gift, I was going to pay half of the wedding expenses. Feeling betrayed and resentful, I told her that if she thought it was okay not to invite me, then maybe she could do without my financial support. Emily reacted angrily, accusing me of being petty and selfish. She claimed I was trying to ruin her special day and manipulating her emotionally. The family is now divided in opinion. Some support me, believing my actions are justified, while others claim I am acting too harshly and letting my breakup affect Emily's happiness. Putting aside the ex thing, think about it. Why would you want to pay for a wedding you weren't invited to? The sister supporters don't understand this. They say, how could you not pay half the bill? Yes, you're uninvited, but that doesn't make you indifferent. The family doesn't judge you, and they ask you not to refuse to help. Some people never cease to amaze with their insolence. If your ex was decent, he would have refused to be the best man when he learned of the situation. Your sister, out of selfishness, decided that his presence was more important than yours. The fact that the family is protective of her and still expects you to pay for the wedding is just as astounding. Your sister chose him over you and should suffer the consequences of her decision. Inviting your ex to the wedding and you not being invited is absurd. Who in their right mind thinks that's okay? There has to be something more to this situation. You wouldn't invite your brother or sister to your wedding unless there was a serious fight. And even then, you wouldn't expect them to pay for it. You underestimate the bride's ability to fool herself into dreaming of a big wedding. Those relatives who think your actions are too cruel can open their wallets. Your sister has no obligation to you, so maybe you should spend the money intended for the wedding on a nice drama-free vacation. Your sister, on the other hand, expecting you to pay for an event you weren't invited to is acting unreasonably. My next story. My wife is 30 years old and I am 32. We have been married for 6 years. We recently had a son. Some time ago, my wife was diagnosed with postpartum depression and is now on medication. In recent months, she has had sudden bouts of anger. She could have violent outbursts, although these were short-lived. Despite their intensity, I understand that this is part of her condition and sympathize with her. A few days ago, I went grocery shopping. My wife repeatedly reminded me to buy onions, but I forgot about it. There were many other purchases that needed to be made. I could have put everything on a list so I wouldn't forget anything. When I got home, my wife asked about the onions. I apologized and offered to go back to the store. However, she got very angry, grabbed an item off the counter and threw it on the floor. It turned out to be a watch given to me by my deceased sister. It was especially precious to me as it had our names engraved on it. My wife instantly apologized and was genuinely upset. I tried to reassure her by telling her that it wasn't her fault and that it was okay. In fact, I felt devastated. It was the moment when I first wondered if I loved my wife. Not planning to take drastic action in the coming months because of her condition, I still seriously considered the possibility of divorce in a year because I doubt my feelings. As I contemplate divorce, I wonder if anyone is an idiot for considering divorce if feelings for their partner have faded. Of course he isn't. Contemplating a separation when your wife is experiencing postpartum depression and suffering from bouts of uncontrollable anger is worth special consideration. If your wife's temper tantrums continue, it may be that current medications are not having the proper effect. I would strongly suggest that she contact her obstetrician or the specialists in the postpartum depression unit at the hospital where she gave birth. There they can review the appointments and possibly suggest a short hospital stay to stabilize the condition. After reading this, I get the impression that the situation requires urgent intervention. Now may not be the best time to discuss divorce. Your wife's health needs immediate attention. There is essentially a fire in the house that needs to be put out first to keep everyone around you safe. The child, the pets, all family members. Safety should come first before you start talking about feelings and relationships. You should discuss the situation with a therapist or psychologist. I don't know all the intricacies of your relationship, but one thing is clear. Your wife needs additional medical care and support. Modern medicine offers many effective medications and treatments for depression. This could be a chance to make a difference. With that in mind, I recommend that you try to overcome the difficulties for the common good, yours, your wife's, and your child's. Good luck. A story that really surprised me. My fiancé is 33, I am 34, and we have been together for 5 years. During that time, I have supported him through his struggles with addiction and have been involved in raising his daughter when he has been going through difficult times, being in prison, homeless, or in rehab. I have a son from a previous marriage who is now a teenager, and my fiancé and I share a young son. Last weekend was my fiancé's daughter's birthday. The day before, my fiancé texted me. He said that his daughter would prefer that my son not attend the celebration. The reason was that her boyfriend was scheduled to attend and she feared she would be left out, since my son and her boyfriend get along great. I replied to the groom that I would be there to present the gift, but would not stay for the celebration. This decision was due to the fact that my son was very upset to learn that he was not invited. He was really looking forward to seeing his sister and celebrating with her. Later, my fiancé expressed his displeasure with my decision, arguing that his daughter was entitled to invite whoever she wanted to her celebration. I agreed, but emphasized that I also had the right to support my son in his feelings. The situation became more complicated when my fiancé's mom called me to get to the bottom of what was going on. I explained to her the nature of the case. She claimed that my fiancé's daughter had never said anything about not wanting her brother at the party. However, because of my son's worries, we decided not to go. When I told my son about it, he guessed that the decision not to invite him was made by none other than my fiancée. My son wondered if that was the case. Eventually, to distract ourselves, we went to a movie and an arcade. But when my son saw his sister at the mall, he decided he didn't want to stay. You're not an idiot. You're wondering why your fiancé didn't want your son at the party. You wonder why he blamed his daughter for not inviting your son. You wonder why he tried to exclude your son and got angry when you intervened. These questions require answers directly from your fiancé. You will then decide if you want to continue a relationship with such a man. Reading just the first paragraph, it seems as if you have already made the decision to break up with this man. This incident may have convinced you that it is easier to break off an engagement than a marriage. You're proud of your son. Your fiancé has been through a lot. In 6 years, he has struggled with drug addiction, been in prison, and homeless. You wonder why you were willing to ignore so many red flags and yet decided to have a child with him and stay with him. All of these events make it seem like your fiancé has problems as well as you because you brought your son into this situation by not choosing the best partner. Sometimes people rush into a relationship without thinking about the consequences and then are surprised at the unpleasant results. You found yourself in a difficult situation. You tried to make a choice, but now you're in a rethinking phase. I feel sorry for you, especially for your children who didn't choose this situation and now have to suffer the consequences.